Hey guys, welcome to the Iowa Entrepreneur for episode 3 of season 2. Today is a very special guest, Kym Espinoza. She's been dancing since she was 4 years old, and she's been teaching dance since she was 14. Welcome to the show, Kym.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your backstory, where you're from, and how you got started with dance.
So I'm from Lamar's, Iowa, and I started dancing when I was 4 at a studio in Lamar's, and I danced there until I believe I was 10. And then I switched to a different studio that was in Sioux Center, Iowa, which is about 20 miles north from where I lived, and danced there from 6th grade until I graduated.
Okay. And then when you graduated, you kept dancing?
Yeah, so I graduated high school in 2010, and then I went to Oklahoma City University and to major in dance. Originally, I started as a dance management major, and then I think my sophomore year, I changed my focus to dance pedagogy or dance teaching, and then I graduated in 2014 with a degree in American dance teaching. And
Cool. I know like that university's fairly famous for their dance programs. I went there and even just as a business major, all you would hear about was the dance program and how interesting and important it was in the industry. So that's really cool. How did you get into teaching dance when you were 14? Because, you know, you were dancing and then all of a sudden one day decided to teach, or did they ask you to maybe assist and then you ended up having an interest in it? How did you
So
fall in love with that?
my dance teacher had me as an assistant for a couple years, and she actually had a lot of health issues. So whenever she had to be out of the studio, she would just have me fill in and teach her classes, which during 1 year specifically, it seemed to be like pretty frequently that she was out. So I got a lot of teaching experience without, I guess, necessarily asking for it, but it just kind of got thrown into it. And then I realized how much I enjoyed it. And so after that, I asked her if I could start doing choreography. And since I was so young, I just asked random dance parents, and my studio was super small. So I asked random parents if they would be comfortable letting me do choreography for their kids. So I did a lot of solos, a lot of like duets, and then as I got older I did more groups. But at first I didn't really charge anybody because I just wanted to do it. So if they agreed to it, my teacher was fine with letting me do it. So I got a lot of experience that way. And then as I got older, then I like started charging, and then I started doing bigger groups, and then it just kind of evolved.
So your whole entrepreneurial journey kind of started when you were 15, 16?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Interesting. How at one point when you were teaching and you were still dancing, did you find that the balance was starting to lean more towards teaching than when you were performing?
Well, actually, when I first started, it was pretty much, I guess it was pretty even because I was still doing a ton of my own dancing, and then on the weekends I would do choreography and teach. Well, except for like during the week when I would be assisting, because my teacher never actually had me teach a full class on my own. I was always assisting her, and when she was gone, then I would fill in, but I would always do my own choreography. So it was pretty even. Like I guess on the weekends we would have rehearsals for like 12 hours, and usually people were only there for a couple hours, but I would do my rehearsals with my choreography for like 6 hours, and then I would have my own rehearsals for like 6 hours. So
in one day?
Yeah. So it was a lot.
Wow.
But I mean, it didn't really feel like work because I really enjoyed doing choreography, and honestly, I've been doing it my whole life. Like I tried to teach my neighbor kids how to do dances and stuff like that. I was always doing it, and I was always in my room, had music on, always doing choreography just for fun. So it didn't really feel like a lot. Looking back on it, it was a lot because I was doing like a full dance schedule and a full teaching schedule. But I mean, I was young and it was fun, and
it's still fun and to this day. So that's probably what you were born to do, really, is teach dance, it seems like. How many hours out of the day since then do you think you spend on dance per week?
It was hard to say, but I mean, a good majority of my day is either working on lesson plans, working on curriculums, working on choreography, or actually like physically in the studio teaching. So I always like make sure I have a few hours when I'm like in, like right now, we're not in the middle of a dance season. So like
Sure.
right now it's not as hectic, but when it's in the middle of dance season, I give myself like an hour or two every day of not dance, but pretty much everything else is either planning or thinking about it or doing choreography or actually physically in the room teaching.
So it's safe to say your whole life is basically ingrained with dance
Pretty
now.
much, yes.
Yeah. And it's safe to say I think pretty much every time I see you and talk to you, it's always dance, dance, dance. So that's, it's nice to see that you practice your craft like it's just like the back of your hand at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So when you graduated in college, you moved back to Iowa. Did you picture that happening when you were there, or did you want to stay back home in Oklahoma, or what happened that made you come to Iowa?
So I was always very adamant that I was never going to come back to Iowa. Never. Yeah. I mean, I loved growing up here and like I have no complaints, but I never wanted to come back. Yeah. So as graduation was approaching, I actually was working at a studio in Moore, Oklahoma, which I really loved, and I loved the kids and I loved the owners, but it was a really small studio, and they weren't able to offer me a ton of hours, and that's kind of what I was finding in other studios in Oklahoma. Like I could have taught at several studios in the area and like made my living that way, but I didn't ever really want to do that. I wanted to like have a home studio and just really focus on those kids in that business. And I wasn't really able to find something that I felt like was a good fit for me there. So my advisor at school actually sent me a job offer that an owner from a studio here had sent. And I contacted her and I got hired basically over the phone without ever having to come up here and meet and do an interview that way. So, and it was kind of one of those, she was offering me basically a full-time position where I'd be teaching every day and I was able to do choreography, and it was kind of like
kind of what you wanted,
the position that I was looking for in Oklahoma. So I just kind of had to agree to, this is too good of an opportunity to pass up. So I made the move and came back.
So that's kind of a good, to me, an example that you were willing to do whatever it took to do what you wanted to do and spread, your passion of dance to younger kids and people, even adults that learn from you. That's something I think really shows what a good entrepreneur is like. Like, well, I got to move to California or I got to move to New York, and they'll do it because they know that's like it just felt right. It's the next step to take. So, so how long did you teach in that studio, and then did you decide, what, the time is right? I just need to. You've always wanted to open your own studio, correct?
Correct.
So when was it that you kind of clicked and you just decided, I need to start now while I'm young? And
so I taught at that studio from the fall of 2014 through this past spring, so 2020. So for six full dance seasons I taught there. And every year, I guess probably from like year 3, every year I've kind of gone through and evaluated like, okay, do I want to stay and continue on this path of just being like a teacher and choreographer, or do I want to go and do my own thing? And every year it's just been like, okay, I don't feel like now is the right time. I don't feel like now is the right time. And every year I've like had moments where I'm like, okay, I need to do it. I'm not getting any younger. This is the perfect time to do it. And I just kind of always talk myself out of it. And I guess I just got very comfortable and it was safe and there was a lot of security staying, and it's really scary to break away. So I've kind of always stayed. But this year was really, there's been like a lot of things that have built up to this point where I just got to the point where I was like, I feel like I guess I got to the point where I almost was doubting myself and I guess didn't think, like I was getting to a position where I didn't think that I was as good anymore. And not that I've ever been like super cocky, but I've always like been confident that this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm in the right place. And this year, I guess the last like 2 years, I've gotten to a point where I feel like I haven't felt like my worth is as strong as it used to be. And I haven't felt like I've been doubting myself and like, am I really supposed to do this? Is this really like a good fit for me? Am I actually doing anything for any of these kids? Like, am I making a difference in anyone's life? And I guess in my forever, I've always thought if I ever get to a point where I'm doubting myself and I'm doubting my worth, then I need to get out, because it's not, I mean, there's been so many days where I'm like, I don't even know if I want to dance anymore and do this anymore, but this has been my life forever. And then I think about how much I love it and how much I love teaching and how much I love doing choreography. So I finally just decided this is the time. I don't want to feel this way anymore, and I don't want to feel like I'm not worth what I thought I was previous years, and I don't want to like feel so negative about it, and I don't want to have to doubt whether this is what I'm supposed to do. So this has been the year where I decided, okay, I still do love dance and I still do want to teach, but I need to get out of the environment that's making me doubt myself. So as much as I loved all those kids and they like made me so incredibly happy, I needed to say, like, close the door on this chapter and open the door for the next chapter. And since then, I've like had this weight lifted off, and now I feel like, okay, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I've like felt so much more. I mean, it's been incredibly hard process, but it feels like this is the right time and the right move, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to see how that everyone goes through their ups and downs, especially now that you're becoming more of a serious entrepreneur and you're owning a new studio. It's going to be a whole new chapter, but you fought through all of those hardships, and now you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it to prove anyone wrong. It doesn't seem like, and you just have this true passion of dance that just people need to. It's intoxicating, and people need to see you really, in the right spotlight to see it flourish. So that's kind of cool to see that whole story come to play. And now it's exciting because you don't know what's going to happen next. Can you tell us a little bit about your new dance studio coming up, when you open, maybe the name of it, where it's located, and sort of what your plans are for that business?
So the new studio, the name is Elevation Performing Arts Center.
Okay.
And we're opening in State Center. The address is 123 Main Street West. And it's right across the street from the elementary school. It's a really small, like, farm kind of community, but it's like really cute. It's all the buildings are really old, and I think it's going to be a really good fit for what I'm looking for. So we our classes are going to start the Tuesday after Labor Day, so Tuesday, September 8th. Before then, we'll have some like registration dates and open house dates, but all of those are kind of to be determined right now. But we're hoping to move into the building and start kind of transforming the space in the next couple days, putting in floors, painting, doing all of that to make sure
the fun stuff.
Yeah, everything is ready for when we open in September.
So that's like a month out.
Yeah.
That's kind of cutting it close. I guess we already know what drives you to get it done. It's just your whole life's kind of been prepping you for this. So once you open and registration goes really well and the season starts, what do parents and kids have to look forward to with this new dance studio?
So we have like the normal dance studio stuff. So we have like a recreational program. So for the kids that aren't like don't want their lives to revolve around dance, but they still want to have dance in their life, and they come, I mean, they can choose how involved they want to be. So we'll have classes from 3 years old to 18, high school. So we have the recreational program where they can kind of pick and choose what styles interest them. And then we'll also have a competitive program. So we're going to have 4 different levels of our competition teams. So we'll have like a mini company for the little ones, and then a junior company for like the next tier of kids, and then we'll have like a competitive group and then a pre-professional group for the kids that like, this is like, it's basically, I guess when I was thinking of this pre-professional program, it was like the program that I wish I would have had when I was their age, because I did dance a lot, but there was not like a specific program for me. I just took a bunch of different
classes. There wasn't something tailored for someone who, you know, really wanted to maybe go to Broadway or be a Rockette or something like that.
So like I just enrolled in a bunch of different basically recreational classes just to get my hours. But this is a program where it's just specifically those kids and their classes. And I mean, they'll be there a lot. They'll dance a lot. There's still some options of they can keep adding on, but it's like a very focused program that they'll have a lot more requirements, and it's for the kids that like this
like
is what they want.
Like a career focused program. Like I want to dance for a living in the future. So you're prepping them for that. And I know college, seeing that when I was on campus was very obvious, but it didn't seem like some of them had that sort of mindset prior to it. So you're prepping their minds too on what it takes to be a professional dancer in that industry.
And even if they don't want to make a career of dance, but that this is like what they want to do right now, it doesn't mean that they have to be a professional dancer, but it's more focused and more intense of a program for the kids that like this is what they want their life to look like right now. So that's like our two, I guess, normal dance studio type programs. And then we're also going to have a homeschool program. So it's going to be on Tuesday mornings where they'll come in, and it's like, 3.5 hours of just like extra training in the daytime. So it can be for the kids that are enrolled in the classes in the afternoon, recreational or competitive kids, or it can just like, if they just want to do the homeschool program, then it's just like a training program for those kids that aren't in traditional school that want to do some stuff during the daytime. So that's like and a lot of studios are kind of going that route now, but that's kind of a unique program for our area. And then we're also going to do some student choreography workshops. It's not necessarily a class, but every once in a while we'll have a workshop, just because a lot of studios don't really I was fortunate that my dance teacher let me do choreography. And she kind of helped me transition into that, which a lot of people don't. And then they decide they want to be a teacher, but they've never done any choreography. So then like a lot of times, even if you're a really good teacher, if you've never had any experience doing choreography, that's a really hard part. So most places don't have programs that allow the kids to learn how to do it before they have to go into like a professional experience and choreograph. So this will be a program where the kids, if they're interested in that, they can come in and kind of get the basics and learn how to do choreography before if they would ever choose to be a teacher or a choreographer before they're out in the professional world, and they'll be able to kind of get some ideas of what that's like.
Just get their hands dirty per se.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. I did have one more, few more questions, but this one was pertaining more towards that industry as a whole. I notice, and maybe people who aren't involved in the industry so much notice it too, but there's always some sort of obviously stress, because not only to your body, but your mind with all the performing stuff, but there seems to be a lot of drama in that industry. You see it in shows all the time, like Dance Moms, where, I've seen you watch it before, and you see them just arguing back and forth, the moms with the teacher with the moms, and then like the kids are just kind of in that atmosphere, unfortunately, at a young age, and see all this develop. And why is that? Is there a reason? Because it's not just, I mean, TV shows are a little over dramatized, I'm sure, but you see that. I saw it at school. So like, why is that?
So, I mean, the dance world, there's always going to be a certain amount of competitiveness just by nature. Like, I mean, same as in sports, you're always kind of striving to be the best and striving to be the one that the teacher or the coach notices. And so there's like no way to avoid that, because when you have these kids in a room, they're looking for your approval. There's always going to be like trying to, I guess, outdo the next person. I guess where the drama comes in is, and in my experience, because I've had a lot of that, like my growing up, I was the kid that everybody liked to pick on and everybody was kind of out to get. So I had parents on my back, I had kids on my back constantly, like being super negative and like trying to break you down and tear you down. And luckily, my teacher was super supportive and super like uplifting. And obviously, I had my family. So that helps, but it's still really hard when you have from like, if it feels like all directions, people like trying to tear you down and like the jealousy and that sort of experience. But a lot of it comes from if, and obviously, like as a studio owner, you can't call a meeting with students every single day.
Sure.
When
Makes
something
sense.
happens. But if you know, like if the kids know they're in a environment that the drama is going to be allowed to happen, they're just going to escalate and continue to do it because they know that whatever they do, nothing's going to happen.
Sure.
And unfortunately, sometimes it comes from the teachers and they're very, like they know that it's happening, but they do nothing to stop it.
Sure. Okay.
And so if you're in an environment where it's allowed to build, then it's going to get to this point where it's out of control and no matter what you do, it's going to be there. But if you're in an environment where I guess it's preached that you should be supportive of the people, you're all a team. And so if somebody does something well, we should be able to celebrate with that person. And then when it's your turn and you have something exciting happen, then we celebrate with you. And if there's a more of an environment of a team, which again, there's still going to be the competitiveness, but there's a way to have a competitive environment without having a negative, nasty, out to get each other environment. And a lot of it comes from the teachers and it comes from the studio owner. You have to have a no nonsense policy. And if you have, like, if there's a certain kid that so many people are coming and telling you this is happening and it's this person, then you have to figure out that, okay, maybe it's time that we have a sit down with this person and tell them we know this is going on and either you stop or you're not going to be allowed to be in this program. And a lot of the times studio owners and teachers don't want to have those conversations because nobody wants to lose students.
Sure.
Or have somebody be upset with you. But it's just you have to have a no nonsense policy for the jealousy and the drama that's negative. Again, there's always competitiveness. There's always going to be jealousy. If somebody wins, there's going to be all these other people that don't win. So there's no way to avoid it, but there's a way to approach it and have it be just like a normal conversation. And a lot of the time studios don't talk about it. So it's like, well, we're not going to talk about it because it's too hard to talk about. So we'll just let it happen. But you have to continuously talk about it and bring it up and say, this person had their day. So we support and encourage them and celebrate with them. And then someday it's going to be your day. And just have that as like the basis of your daily operations. And I've also, like in this new studio, I'm going to try, because I've had so much experience with the negativity and the drama, like one of my number one goals is to try to not have that be at the forefront of the studio. So we're really going to focus on being grateful and being kind to one another and having a team environment. And it's just, if you're taught to be gracious and you're taught to be kind to other people and you're taught to celebrate when they have their victories, then it's a lot easier to like deal with those disappointments because you know, okay, this is not my day.
Sure.
But the next time it might be my day. So it is like the perception of dance is very like dramatic and jealousy and nastiness, but there's a way to not get rid of it, but there's a way to minimize it and not have that be like the number one thing that happens in your studio.
Okay. So you're saying that it will always kind of be there.
Yeah.
It's just the industry. What would you tell, like if someone was watching and they're in that situation now, what sort of things would you tell them that you went through to kind of bust out of that bubble and not be in that funk? You know what I mean? Like, What would you recommend they do just so they know that it's not just them, the world's not out to get them?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I would say is to not keep it to yourself, because that's kind of the approach that I went, and I didn't talk about it to my family. I didn't talk about it with my teacher. I just kind of kept it inside, and then it gets to a point where so many things are coming at you that at some point you're just going to explode, and then it's all going to come out. And then after that explosion, in my case, then I started talking about it to my family and to my teacher, and while it didn't necessarily stop, I at least had an outlet for it, and I could vent, and then I would feel better, even though like the solution wasn't resolved, but it made me feel a lot better about it. So the number one thing, I guess, is to not keep it to yourself. And whether that is talking to your family, talking to your teacher, talking to some other adult that you trust, or even like somebody that your age that you really trust, just so you're not holding that all inside. And then if it is like a constant issue and it seems to be with the same person over and over again, and there's so many different issues, then bring it to your dance teacher, because a lot of the times stuff happens at school, stuff happens on social media. And we don't always know when that stuff is happening. The only thing that we can comment on is what we see happen in the studio setting. So if there's something that's happening constantly outside of the studio, we have no way of knowing that. So feeling like don't feel like your dance teacher or your studio owner is unapproachable, because we want to help you and we want to know what's going on. So bringing that to our attention. And again, that may not mean every time you come in and talk to us, we can have a conversation with this person, because then it might get to the point where it's constant. But if you feel like it's a persisting problem, then bring it to our attention, because maybe we don't know
And
what's going on.
I feel like with social media nowadays, it's easier for the students and sometimes parents to go at each other, because again, there's no wall. Like once you leave the studio, like back then, you left the studio, it was all at your house and that was it. But now it's kind of all connected. And some students may think that you already know because of social media, and it's like so easy to know what's going on. But it's nice that you're trying to focus on that and tell them, you probably should go talk to your dance teacher, because they may not know what's really going on. So I just figured you'd bring that to light and kind of tell someone who may be struggling how to get through that. I have one more question for you, and that is, what is your definition of an entrepreneur?
So I guess I would say my definition is, which I kind of touched on earlier, realizing that where you are isn't fulfilling what your goals and your hopes for your future are, and having the courage and the strength to close that door and to leave the security and the safety of that job, walking away from it and opening your own, or creating your own business, opening your own business that will fulfill your dreams. So being able to acknowledge that this isn't working for me, so I need to shut this door, and have the courage to walk through the new door and make 100%. That new experience for yourself.
Great. I love that definition. All right. Well, thank you, Kym, for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.